We are back with you live once again. Welcome, one and all, to Johnny Torch Live number 69. This week in comic book television, the only way to spend your Saturday here with us, going over the humongous, tremendous list of superhero programs that we have to watch now. We're living in a golden age, truly, where you can't turn on the television without finding some comic book related property just waiting for your viewing pleasure. We usually cover MacGyver here as well because that's part of the oeuvre, so to speak. But I'm so backed up on MacGyver now. I'm 3 episodes backed up, and there's just not enough time in the day. So one of these days, we're going to donate, a good segment of time to catching up with MacGyver on the show. But until then, we've got a lot on our plate already. So thank you for joining us. And first off, before we actually get to the shows at hand, we have some more thrilling news in the world of Bullets Bourbon and Bullets Bourbon comics. I'm thrilled to announce my very next appearance will be at PillCon 2018, the second annual PillCon in Peabody, Massachusetts, located in the Peabody Institute Library, 82 Main Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I'll be there May 19th for PillCon from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And as usual, I'll be signing copies of The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon and giving away some free goodies. So make sure you come and check it out if you're going to be in the area. I'd love to see you, especially if you've listened to the show, because I don't think too many people, especially from my own neck of the woods here in Massachusetts, have actually listened to the show. Also, we have in my concert circuit that I'm appearing on, we're going to be at KidsCon 2018. Just to remind you, KidsCon June 10th. And it will be at the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire. So I'm spanning 2 different states in this, circuit that I'm doing, bringing the glory of Bullets Bourbon comics to the world. I am doing the tour, doing the circuit. I'm also going to see if I can get to Mice Expo again this year. I had a good time at that last year in October. They're going to do another one, of course, this coming October. I'm going to see if I can get to that as well. But for now, we have 2 dates. May 19th, I'll be at the Peabody Institute Library. And June 10th, I'll be at the Radisson Hotel, Nashua, New Hampshire, from 10 to 5. You can check out my Twitter page. The link is in the description below if you want any further information. It's on my website. The front page, you'll be able to see it, and the links to the respective con websites. So you'll be able to get all the information you need there. So very excited about that. And we're going to try to hit as many places as possible. And the problem is when I do these cons, especially if I've got a lot of them lined up, like I've got a lot of them this year, it takes a lot of time away from my working on the next book. So again, apologies if I keep saying, well, I'm working on the next book. I'm working on the next book. It comes slowly because I'm a one-man operation. It comes even more slowly when I've got things like this where I have to start ordering more books for the shows and all the other goodies and accoutrements. I'm not going to spoil what I'm going to be giving away at the show. I'm going to try to bring a couple things to each convention and give them away as freebies. But this takes away from the time I have to work on the books. And I haven't even started coloring the next issue. That is the next step on issue 5. I'm going to see if I can get something done on it tonight. But again, then I have a live show to do here. So we'll be here for about an hour. We're going to be talking about all the great shows that have aired in this past week. And let's start with, we have the season finale of Legends of Tomorrow. So let's start with that. That was really fun. And Legends of Tomorrow is pretty much my favorite show of the CW shows, at least. Probably of all the shows that we cover here on This Week in Comic Book Television. Of course, here, The Revenge of Beebo, as my title of this video is suggesting here, that Beebo returns, yes. And it was hilarious. This is the only show that's like not afraid to get crazy with the comic book stuff. I mean, this is straight out of Ghostbusters, Mr. Stay Puft. This is basically where they got this from, and it's hilarious. I mean, I don't honestly know exactly how he killed Malice, or Malice, as I guess he's preferring to be called, but that doesn't matter. As long as, he just belly flopped on him and smashed him to the ground. I guess that was enough to destroy him. So let's take a brief look at the entirety of the episode as we are wont to do. So Nora had transformed into Mollis, and they use their totems because each of them has a totem that they try to use against Mollis. No dice. Rip, let's talk about Rip for a second here. My man Rip. Oh, Captain, my Captain. I really like Rip as a character. He's one of my favorite characters on the show. Unfortunately, it looks like he had his swan song here. And as I said before, I kind of think Rip was too good for this show because the gimmick of the show is that they're a bunch of screw ups and they don't know what they're doing and they can't get it right. And he was clearly too savvy. I don't want to say intelligent, but let's say savvy. He had been in the business for a while and he kind of knew what were the rules and what they should and shouldn't do. So he uses the time drive to try to kill Mollis, although he apparently knows it won't kill Mollis. It's just something to sort of save the team and help them from getting annihilated. So he, has that tender moment there where he sees his family, and that's what it really comes back to, the family that he lost. And that's what started this whole adventure for everyone, was the, him trying to save his family. And sad to say, that's kind of gotten lost. He wasn't even a real presence this season. They put, so much on Ava to make her a big presence in the show because they want to have the shipping with her and Sarah, which I still don't like. I just don't. I just can't stand it. I don't find any chemistry within them at all. Like I said, Sarah and Nyssa actually had chemistry. So if they had to go to this, lesbian relationship that they kind of want to foster on these CW shows for some reason, bring her back to Nyssa. Bring Nyssa on the show. Let Nyssa be a regular or something. But that kind of is, out of her personality range. I think Nyssa to play well with others. Although she is working apparently with Thea and for a short time Roy, even though Roy apparently is coming back to Arrow, as we said in the Torch News Roundup. If you haven't watched the Torch News Roundup, get back over there to that. Probably it's on the right side here of your screen, and you'll be able to click last week's episode, the Torch News Roundup number 85. All right, so they go to the West, the Wild, Wild West. They meet up with Jonah Hex again, who's always fun to see. Apparently he's the new sheriff in town. So we got some zombies turning up here. Let's see, what is it? Julius Caesar, Blackbeard, and Leif Erikson's sister, who was played by Katia Winter. I didn't recognize her the first time when she was in the earlier episode with Beebo, the original Beebo episode. And if you had watched Legends of Sleepy Hollow, like I used to for the first 2 seasons before they completely ruined Katia's character. What was her name on the show? Katrina. Yeah, it almost sounds like her real name. Lovely girl, and they ruined her entirely. They got her out of the Phantom Zone or whatever it was. Kind of ruined the show because they didn't know what else to do after they got rid of her. It was trying to set her up with, trying to set Ichabod up with, I think I talked about this on one of the broadcasts last year, trying to set Ichabod up with Abby. It just didn't feel like the same show. Then Abby left because whatever reason that actress didn't want to be on the show anymore, or the powers that be thought she was too difficult. I don't know. But the fact remains that Katia Winter is good. I like her, and I would love to see her actually have a more substantive role on one of these shows. But apparently, what are they going to do with Leif Erikson's sister after this? All right, so Ray frees Damien and actually hits Nate, and they get away in the jump ship. Amaya decides to go back to visit her ancestors. Nate comes along. And so they have to combine the totems like Voltron. They find out during this, I don't want to say seance, but whatever it is that Amaya is communicating with the ancestors. Sarah needs to wear the death totem. She's not too happy about that. They try to create a Voltron, for lack of a better term, that just is disgusting and repulsive. Ava shows up with a team of her own, including Kawasa, Helen of Troy, and Jefferson Jackson, formerly known as Firestorm. Now Jax is married with a baby. It's been 5 years, our time, which is strange. Ava decided to pick him out of 2024, I guess, instead of going to 2018. I don't know. Or was it 2023? I don't know. During this time, Helen of Troy is a trained Amazon. Kuasa has no bitterness because she became a totem bearer in this timeline. So, I don't know. There's a little funny aside there with Isis getting soft on Jonah Hex. Kind of strange. Isis only wore her costume once this season. And seeing as how her costume really wasn't all that impressive, they could have worked it in a couple more times, I would have thought. They worked it in on the Halloween episode, which I guess was the excuse for her to wear it. Apparently, she's staying with the show, so I don't know. I mean, I just want her to look more like a superhero going forward. But a lot of these characters haven't really been given their just due in their costumes to begin with. All right, so Ray and Damien go back to 1992 to get Nora before she transforms to Malice. Dark zaps her, but Malice invades him. So Ray brings Nora back to the ship, and Sari gives a rousing speech. I can't remember any of it now, but that's what my notes say. Mick takes out Caesar, the big hullabaloo at the end. Amaya takes out Blackbeard. The team needs to weld the totems to create a giant Beebo, because, like I said, in Ghostbusters style and fashion, Ray starts thinking of Beebo, and that's what their totem creature becomes. It destroys Malice in a no holds barred brawl, apparently killing Damien. Although I think they could probably bring Damien back from this, especially since Constantine's going to be on the show next season, and he's got all this kind of mystical stuff going on. I think they could bring Rip back. I really would like them to bring Rip back, but unfortunately, it was probably the best way they could have sent him out of the show, where he goes back to his family. There's only so many times you could play that card, so to bring him back again would probably cheapen that. But I just wish that he would have been the captain and the regular all along, instead of they just gave him the hard brush. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm gonna miss him, and hopefully maybe that actor Arthur Derville, I think his name is. I'm not sure, but hopefully he lands somewhere else that we can see him either turning up in one of these shows, or maybe stretching his acting chops in a big budget movie, in a DCEU film, in a Marvel film. Who knows? Okay, so Ray gives Nora the Time Stone, and she gets arrested and gets taken back to the Huzgau. Again, her story was kind of briefly gone over. We really don't know what's going to happen to her. Some people speculated that maybe she'd join the Wave Rider and sort of, have a face turn, so to speak. But apparently she's going back into prison, and maybe she's going to come back out. Well, I think they left it so ambiguous that they are going to use her again next season to some capacity. Again, like I said, with Constantine in the show, you can pretty much make bank on that. And of course, her husband's actually on the show, Brandon Routh, so that's a incentive right there to bring her back. Now, Amaya, this is the ending of the Amaya story arc, and I'm really happy with the way they dealt with it, because this is a show that really plays fast and loose with the time travel concept. When you think of it, we've had Isis playing around with the concept and taking Helen of Troy out of the timeline. It seems basically the only thing that can't change in history is Laurel Lance has to stay dead and Rip's family has to stay dead. Pretty much besides that, anything goes. Although, they also kept Martin Stein dead, but that was more, I think, because the actor Victor Garber was leaving the show. So anyhow, the resolution for the Amaya and Nate storyline I thought was very good. They're two of the best representatives of the relationship drama that they had on any of these shows. They weren't really a shipper relationship. Where all these other relationships on the shows, such as Ava and Sarah, such as Elicity, West Allen, um, Sandverse, all those relationships are basically, you know, built upon the foundation of that they had to appease the shipper cults. Nobody was really begging and pleading for more Amaya and Nate, you know, Nate Maya or whatever. But it made it feel a lot more natural. It didn't feel like they were trying to, you know, shove it in your face every single episode. So I thought it was one of the more uh, easily digestible episodes, relationships in these shows. But it made sense because Amaya had to fulfill her destiny. She had to be, the leader of the Zambezi tribe and so forth. And I'm glad Nate is staying on the show. I thought that would sort of like bum him out, and he would retire back to the, library of Smithsonian or wherever he came from. So the team go to Aruba, and we get a brief glimpse of Katie Lotz in a bikini. Too brief, but brief nonetheless. And Constantine shows up to say that apparently they let more demons out, and they're going to have to put them back and do something about it. All right, so this was a real fun episode. This was a great episode, and I'm going to give this episode 5 stars out of 5. I am going to give this episode the full 5 stars out of 5 for Legends of Tomorrow, the season finale. We could talk a little more about it. I got so much to get to today, though. I think we should save it. We've already been going here for about 10, 15 minutes on this subject alone, but we got so much to get to. But this season, I kind of felt was a step down from the past two. I don't know, but they seem to pull it together when they needed to, but it's a little more unwieldy. I think this is kind of the problem that these shows end up having eventually, such as The Flash, such as Arrow, where they kind of don't tighten the screws, and the show starts to get feeling very unwieldy. Like, let's look at what's going on over here, but then again, we've got other subplots over there, and it's not really tying in together to the main plot. I kind of felt that was a little sloppy this year. But the stories were good for the most part. It was a lot of fun for the most part, which is something, like I said, a lot of the other shows can't say. So it was a great season for Legends. And like I said, maybe we'll come back in a couple of weeks when the other shows are done and rank how the seasons were for all of them. And we've got Supergirl coming up next week to replace Legends. So that will be something fun to see coming up next week. And so there you have it. That's Legends of Tomorrow, the season finale. Beebo's Revenge. All right, let's see. That's what I'm calling it. I don't remember what the episode was called. Next we've got Black Lightning, which they always call their episodes something like, I don't know, the Book of the Crucifixion and the Book of the Resurrection. I don't know really what that has to do with anything, but they got like, pseudo religious titles, and I don't remember what this one is at all either. But this was pretty cool. This was another episode that was pretty cool. So we got Tobias back. He's been missing in action for the last couple of weeks. And he's apparently working with that skeevy CIA guy. And the CIA guy wants Tobias to get Black Lightning for experimental purposes because they're sort of trying to uncover what they did with creating metahumans. The big surprise is Kahlil can now walk. Jennifer's old boyfriend there, he can walk, and Tobias had, done a lot for him to get him this Dr. Octopus type spine that he has now that allows him to walk. And of course, he wants something in return, and he makes that known in no uncertain terms to Kahlil. Tobias doesn't mince words, or his steak very well for that matter. All right, so we got a Black Lightning slow jam going on here. There's a little romance vibe in the air for Lynn and Jeff, which is nice because it seems like, what's good about it is there's a very mature relationship going on with these two. they're not playing this like this is one of those soap opera things, and they're bringing like conflict into the story without making it very soap opera-ish. So they're trying to get back together, which it seems like they've been back together, to be totally honest with you, for the last I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes at least. And a monkey wrench gets thrown in the works a little bit later. We'll get to that in a second. Tobias kills the guy that saved him because he didn't save his sister. Remember, his sister was dead in a shootout. I can't remember exactly how it happened. I don't think it was it Lady Eve's men? I can't remember, but anyhow, his sister died. Jeff runs into Kahlil while he's in his civilian identity, and he realizes he's changed. He tries to reach him. He won't have any of it, Kahlil. And is still working on finding the frozen kids with Gamby. Jeff goes to see Khalil's mom. She hasn't seen him or really know too much about what this new Kahlil is like. He's obviously keeping this a secret, his kind of connections with Tobias Whale. Gamby goes back out and he corners an old accomplice for info. Jennifer, in the meantime, still wants to cure her powers, and she's trying to get her mother to learn how to cure them, or trying to hope her mother she hopes her mother will be able to cure her and trying to further that end. But Jeff tells Jennifer about Kahlil walking, and she wants to see him, but Jeff warns her off. Jeff is upset with Lynn about, as I said, her wanting to be cured, Jen wanting to be cured, and that Lynn might, in fact, be able to facilitate a cure. All right. A little bit of a tongue twister there, but I think we are all on the same page, aren't we? I think so. All right, so Jennifer runs off to meet Kahlil. She wants to learn who helped him out in this matter that made him walk and stuff again, but he bails because he thinks Jeff is behind it. Tobias wants Kahlil to draw Black Lightning out. Meanwhile, Lala's still tripping. Crazy old Lala. I don't know what's going on with him. We'll probably find out next week because it's the last episode. This is the penultimate episode, so they're setting it up for next week. Lynn tries to tell Jen that it might not be easy to cure her because apparently Jennifer doesn't like being a superhero. Who doesn't want to be a superhero? I don't know. Apparently just Jen. Kahlil's on a rampage in the school. Black Lightning and Thunder show up. Thunder takes on Tobias's henchwoman in a pretty good fight. I still don't know what that babe is all about. I don't know what's going on there. She's like some kind of I guess she's just well trained. I thought that she was going to be some kind of metahuman or something, but she just jumps around with guns and stuff. Jennifer's there. She kind of wants to help, but doesn't really see any action. Meanwhile, Black Lightning fights Tobias in a very good fight there in the school hallway. Kahlil comes to Tobias' aid and drugs Black Lightning. His powers fail, and Kahlil super punches him dead. He knocks him dead. And this saves his ID by blasting them before they could take his goggles off. And Jennifer uses her new powers to defibrillate Jeff back to life. And they bring Jeff to a cabin in the woods. Meanwhile, the skeevy CIA guy is upset that Black Lightning is dead. Apparently dead. And meanwhile, Lala is captured by Tobias and his fate to be determined. So yeah, this was a good setup episode for the big finish here. There's a lot of action. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, they're treating the relationship stuff secondary, which is something most of these shows don't do. It's usually soap opera first, superhero second. But in this case, they seem to put the focus on the right thing. And why is that? Because they only got 13 episodes. This is kind of a message, that a lot of people want their shows to be 13 episodes. I just say give us good quality for the full 22 episodes or whatever it is, 23, 21, whatever. It should be possible to do both, to give you good quality and to give you a lot of episodes. But unfortunately, they don't seem to be able to crack that code. I am going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. Black Lightning this week, 4.5 stars out of 5. All right, so next week we'll wrap it up with the adventures of Black Lightning, and it's been pretty good. I gotta say, we're talking about ending of seasons, and it was a pretty solid season. It didn't have its I mean, it wasn't without its share of growing pains and some things that it could do without, but much like Supergirl, when it first started out, found a solid ground relatively quickly and, you know, managed to gain momentum as the season wore on. All right, next up, we're going to talk about, speaking of Supergirl, we're going to talk about her grand uncle. Is that what he is? Um, Seg-El on Krypton. Yes, Krypton. Okay, so we find out that the voice of Ra is decidedly not Brainiac. Now, there was a theory going around that was probably Brainiac, and he was there. I didn't believe it because, as I said before, that doesn't seem to be Brainiac's MO. He doesn't seem to be trying to pass himself off as a religious leader and uh, infiltrating a society from the inside. No, he takes the society as is, as a specimen, and bottles it and takes it to the ship. That's his MO. All right, so Val is still trying to save Rom in the fortress. If you remember, she's the mother of the little orphan waif girl that somehow got zapped with Brainiac's probe or something. Lyta's mom, meanwhile, is coming down hard on her for disobeying orders. Vex arrests Lila in the council meeting there because she disobeyed direct orders, and they're going to charge her with what do they call that when you? It's not desertion; it's something else. I can't remember. I was never in the army, so I don't know. Meanwhile, Adam Strange, Seg, and Kim go to tell Rom's daughter about her mom dying, which seems a little premature because she's not dead yet. I didn't really get this, the way they framed this. You think you tell a kid that their parent is dead after the parent is actually dead, but Rom is actually still alive, kind of hanging on to life, but not for long. Meanwhile, Seg goes to see Lyta, but he gets opposition from Zod's mama and her would-be suitor. I don't remember either of their names. I think Jania. I got it written down somewhere, but anyhow, Jania is Zod's mama. She's the Amazon from Wonder Woman. She's very good. Seg goes to Nyssa for help and proclaims his love for Lyta, which you would think wouldn't be a smart thing, but you know, I guess being open and honest with her was the best way to get her help, apparently. And she seemed very eager to help. And, the thing about Nyssa is she's very complex. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like she's forwarding any agenda but her own. She's not really forwarding her father's agenda. She's not really forwarding the House of Zod's agenda. She's certainly not forwarding the agenda of the Voice of Raoul guy. So it's interesting to see where she's coming from at any given moment. She's a very fascinating character. Okay, so Seg decks Adam and gets caught by Walter Steele. Now, this is an interesting thing. Walter from Arrow, the actor, is playing. He doesn't claim to be Black Zero, although I guess all indications prove otherwise, but he is sort of a subcontractor, I guess you would say, from Black Zero. I think they gave him some weapons and armaments or whatever and tried to further his agenda. I'm not sure, but it's fun to see that actor back again because he's good. The guy plays Walter in this show or in Arrow. He's always giving a good performance. So they capture Seg and they put the bug up his nose. It sounds funny saying it, but that's exactly what they do. Usually they put it in your ear, but in the case of Seg, they put it up his nose. I don't know. And this, after it does whatever it does, I guess they extract it, so it's not crawling around in his brain or whatever. But apparently now they can trust him to tell the truth. I don't know. And they question him about Brainiac. Meanwhile, Nyssa goes to bat for Lyta, and it's a tense scene with them because Lyta, Nyssa, doesn't seem to back down from the relationship that she is wanting to foster with Seg, apparently. For what reason, I don't know. She tells Lyta that they are going to have a child because the Kryptonian blood test thing is all you need to do, and I guess that child is already in the Matrix, which is very interesting because this whole series is predicated on Seg's descendant. And the interesting thing is, though, that she already says the name of the descendant is going to be something other than Jor-El. So unless Seg names or renames this kid Jor-El, uh, this might not be the same kid. It's interesting because he's still not officially an L because he's been stripped of rank and name and this and that. So he could very easily change this kid's name to Jor-El if he ever gets the House of L back in order and, rechristens him Jor. Of course, this is an interesting thing because this is another show that only has 10 episodes, not even 13 like the usual order. They've only got 10 episodes. So next week we'll be halfway through and we'll be able to see better, what direction the show is going to take. All right, so Kim brings Ona, who I believe is the name of the little girl, to Mama Zed, which is, I guess, his adoptive mother, and tells her about her mother dying, even though at this point she still isn't really dead. Then he sort of promises to take care of her. She wants to take an offering to the voice of Ra, Ona, the little girl. And it's interesting because Kim doesn't seem to think this is a good idea. And he still allows her to go through with this, and she gives the voice of Ra, a Raoul, some kind of a statuette of a figure of a person or something, and he decides to adopt her as what he calls the Word of Raoul. Now, there's an interesting thing. Kem seems to take this as a very positive thing, but we kind of know that the voice of Raoul is a scumbag, so I don't know. I don't know if he should be so, I don't know, elated at the situation. Anyhow, Nissa confronts Vex and says that Seg and Jaina hold the key to overthrowing the voice of Raoul, but Vex won't clear Lyta. Nissa seems to be wanting to play the long game here. She wants to overthrow the voice of Raoul, and she wants the House of Zod on her side. She wants Seg on her side. She kind of wants Vex, her father, on her side, but she can't seem to get all the pieces in order. But she seems to be the mastermind of this whole thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if she does have some, blood ties to Jor-El or something, because she's very clever. All right, so we got the Adam Strange, a joke from Adam Strange where he says, don't call me Mr. Strange, call me Dr. Strange. No, better call me Adam. Yeah, we get it. That was pretty sly. That was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny, and I tweeted that to Sean Sifos, as a matter of fact. That was very clever, and he liked the tweet, so thank you. Okay, so Rom finally dies, kicks the bucket, bites the dust, joins her ancestors, and Vex goes to Jaina and offers her a chance to join her, but she's resistant. But she leaves her with the with the option in mind. But House of Zod is very obstinate, I suppose. I don't really see how Jaina would sort of trust or want to join her. All right, so the offering that Ona gives to the voice of Raoul ends up poisoning him, so to speak, and taking him over. That doll ends up breaking, and some kind of parasite gets into the voice of Raoul, who apparently is somebody that we've never seen. So this person, whoever the voice of Raoul is, obviously not Brainiac, is probably going to be some other interesting figure in the future. Otherwise, it will be strange that they just have him overtaken by the Brainiac parasite without us ever finding out who he was. That's kind of one of the things about putting a mask on, is when they take the mask off, you kind of have to know what the mystery of why they had the mask on in the first place was. Okay, so meanwhile, a badly wounded Seg makes his way through a storm. He, I forgot to mention that, but basically he escapes. He effects an escape, knocks out one of the guards and puts the bug in her mouth, and that's another story. But anyhow, he effects an escape and makes his way through a storm, apparently trying to get back to the fortress. But he's been wounded, and will he make it? We'll have to find out. We'll soon find out. This one, another very good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. This isn't very shy. Let's put it that way. Um, uh, but yeah, I'm gonna give this 4.5 stars out of 5. 4.5 stars out of 5. I think the death of Rom could have been handled a little bit better, but like I said, the very strange. They're going to tell the daughter that she's dead before she's even dead. They really can't do anything to save her, although she just lays there and sort of vegetates for another half an episode. I don't know. It just seemed very strange. That kind of felt like it could have, worked out better, but still very strong episode. Apart from that, we've got Nissa trying to work basically with everybody. I mean, she's basically coming to everybody for allegiance. You know what I mean? She's tries to talk to Seg several times. She goes to Jaina. She goes to Lyda, and she goes to Vex, the father there. I don't remember his first name, but so it's interesting to see what her machinations are going to be more than pretty much anything else, and what's going to happen with this voice of Rao. And of course, Brainiac is still off on the side, starting to begin as it is. So 4.5 stars out of 5 for Krypton this week. Alrighty, let's get on to The Flash. How's about that one? The Flash. Finally back after a brief hiatus in a couple of weeks. And let's see what we got here. We've got Cisco's, girlfriend's father here. Breacher shows up to ask him for help because he lost his powers. This is a subplot, but I put this picture up because it seems like it's the most obvious of, because if I put a picture up of Null, I don't know. Nobody would know what we're talking about here, but at least you guys would recognize these characters. So they practice trying to face DeVoe, a hologram of DeVoe. Ralph doesn't follow the plan. Harry's still using the thinking cap to find the last two metas, but no dice. Let's see. Oh, we got the Jay and Silent Bob cameo here. This was pretty funny. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the movies of Kevin Smith, but he's a funny character. I mean, he's fun, and see him with Jason Mewes. That was a lot of fun. I just, I wouldn't mind seeing them as recurring characters. As how Murphy and Bellows was in the Flash TV show. I would love to see, Jay and Silent Bob be like the Murphy and Bellows of the new Flash show. That would be pretty funny. I think that would be good. All right, so there's this helium girl who's apparently she's a helium girl with the helium girl, with the blue hair, and apparently she's a comic book villain that was named Null in the comics. Now I know Null because I was a big fan of the World's Finest comic when I was a kid, which was the team up of Batman and Superman monthly, and they would always come together and do some kind of episode together, and then they would go off and do their own thing in their own separate books. But they would come together every month for a team up in the title World's Finest. And I had this issue with Null and Void, which were two villains that had strange powers. One was Null, one was Void, and whenever they teamed up, they could wreak havoc. And I haven't read that book in so long, I don't even know where it is now in my broken down boxes in the basement. But so this character is gender and race changed from the original character. The original character looked very different. It was like a sort of a dapper looking, gentleman looking type character. So anyhow, she steals a crown from under Jay and Silent Bob, who are playing, security guards. Caitlin ends up finding out that Breacher's powers are failing because he's old, which is an interesting dynamic here. And Cisco doesn't want to tell him the real reason for his powers leaving him, and he bluffs his way through helping Breacher by giving him an antihistamine and telling him that it'll cure his powers, and by faking his Vibe powers actually working. But this, of course, is a fraudulent scheme, and it fails on many levels, because on the one hand, I don't know how they work on Earth 16 or wherever he comes from, but I think you take too much antihistamine. Like, he took a whole bottle, and that would probably put you in a coma, I think, because it's very dangerous. Also, the fact that what eventually ends up happening happens. He thinks his powers are back, so he goes after Crucifer, who is apparently a villain. I don't know. That's probably something that actually exists in DC. The Crucifer. He tries to take on this Crucifer vampire type character, but he has no powers, and Vibe has to come and save him. And it's kind of interesting. He goes, the sun doesn't affect this kind of vampire, which is interesting because isn't that mean he's not a vampire if the sun doesn't affect him? I don't know. All right, so Ralph impersonates Joe to investigate his old acquaintance. Null ends up attacking Barry and makes him float. It's only temporary. Barry goes after Null, and she sends a guy falling in a car, so the Flash has to save him so she can get away. So they're like these little escapades they have here, where they try to work some action in, and it's not all just talk and fluff. Now, Maurice, Ms. DeVoe, what is going on with her? She finds out that DeVoe has been drugging her. Because as you remember, when he had one of those female bodies in the past, he drugged her into thinking that she was in love with him, or her, as the case may be. And it's very strange because, yeah, it seems to be working. And every time she seems to start remembering that she's been drugged, she starts to write a file and then record a message, and then DeVoe will stop her and end up drugging her all over again, so she forgets all over again. And this is an interesting scenario because they seem to work so good together until DeVoe went power mad, as he is here, because they were very much a team, and he has sort of like destroyed that only good thing that he had going for him. I think that's going to be the message of this episode, or this season of DeVoe's work. So anyway, it's happened before and it happens again, and she forgets again, and then she's madly in love with him / her again, which is again very unsettling and disconcerting that he keeps trading bodies and so forth. This is the same girl, the fiddler, and she has the southern accent still, which, as I said, doesn't make a whole lot of sense because, if he went into a Russian dude, does that mean he would only speak Russian? It shouldn't really affect the way he speaks. Okay, so Null shows up at a Richie Rich party to rob the Stiffs. Flash and Elongated Man show up, and Null sends Flash into the stratosphere. Ralph tries to save him, but can't reach him. Ralph snaps the power-dampening cuffs on Null and saves the falling Flash by turning into a giant whoopee cushion. Now, again, the whole episode is basically revolves around Barry has to learn to accept Ralph for what he is, which is, doesn't take anything too serious type of guy, devil may care, and basically uses a sense of humor to get him through the difficult times. Nothing too special about the episode, but it gives Ralph a little chance to shine. So the end of the day here, Breacher says he'll retire because he's lost his powers. He offers Vibe his position to replace him as the chief arresting officer on that Earth 16 or wherever it is. Cisco looks like he's about to think it over, but I don't really see him taking the job. I don't really think that, there's some carrots you dangle and you think, oh, what will the protagonist do or whatever. This doesn't seem to me like it's going to be in Cisco's wheelhouse at all, but we'll see how they play it. I don't know. If they can convince me that Cisco's taking this offer seriously, good for them. But I don't know. So Harry at the very end goes into Thawne's vault, and he tries to make a go of the thinking cap. And this is very strange, interesting / problematic, because I hope they're not suggesting that this was Thawne all the time, that Harry was replaced or something at one point. So I don't understand what they're trying to get to with that, but I'm frankly tired of Thawne taking over Wells' body. If we're going to see Thawne again, I want it to be the his original form, because they did this also in Crisis on Earth X, where Thawne is back, but he's in Wells' body inexplainably, and he leaves in Wells' body. And the only reason why they have him in Wells' body is because everybody loves seeing Tom Cavanaugh play Wells. slash Eobard. But I don't know. I think once you got through with the subterfuge and it's not a twist anymore, you don't go back to it. And I think it was a mistake to go back to it with Crisis on Earth X, and I think it's a mistake to go back on it here. All right, so that is this week on The Flash. I'm going to give this one. I'm going to give this one 4 stars out of 5. I think. Yeah, I think that's about right. 4 stars out of 5 for The Flash this week. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that one. All right, where are we now? Already 45 minutes into the broadcast, and we still got a few more shows to go here. So this is clearly going to go over the hour because I get long-winded. All right, we're going to take on Legion next. And there isn't usually that much to talk about with Legion because it's so nutsy cuckoo. There really isn't much to say. But here we are. This is the second episode. A lot of people are saying which is better, the first season or the second season. I don't know. Both are difficult to unpack, but this season seems to be even stranger than the first, which is saying a lot. All right, so David's on the merry-go-round, and he agrees to help Farouk find his body because, as we heard last week, Sid from the future tells him that he has to help Farouk find his body. That's what prevents, I guess, more calamity. See Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Carrie, who is the Irwin, what's his name, guy there, he mentions the Shi'ar Empire or something in the technology he's working with or something. He's attacked by Lenny and Oliver. An interesting situation happens when Carrie gets stuck in Carrie and she can't get him out. Pause. And eventually she does get him out, but she wants to get back in, but she can't get back in, and her hair is starting to turn gray because apparently she's going to age fast if she doesn't get back in to him the way she used to. Pause. Okay, so that was weird enough. All right, so now we got the old lady. I mean, I can't remember what her name is. Karen? Is that what her name is? She confronts Baskethead, Admiral Fukuhama, whatever his name is. And I don't know what happens there. David gets into the pool again so he can see the future, past, or whatever. So he makes contact with Sid again from the future, and he asks her, why must he help Farouk find his body? And apparently Sid says that they need Farouk's help to stop him from... They need Farouk's help to stop from a worse threat. She says something like, he kills hundreds while this other threat will kill thousands or something to that effect. All right, so Mickey Meltface comes back. I don't know many of the characters' names. He comes back and questions David. He still doesn't believe him. He keeps coming back to this House of Pancakes or whatever it is with the Mr. Rogers trolley going around. I really like that, though. I like that. Getting your pancakes delivered by trolley in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. That looks like a restaurant I want to go to. But he still doesn't trust David. He thinks that he's not telling him everything he knows. Apparently, David's telling the truth and doesn't know anything. I don't know. So he, again, tries to meet Farouk on the astral plane, I guess, or whatever it is. And he goes to, like, a field with a sign like Lucy's psychiatric help or whatever, with crystal ball and everything. He spars verbally with Farouk and then physically in a strange wrestling match. He promises to find his body in exchange for no more killings. Meanwhile, Lenny apparently is still psychically there in Farouk's head or body or whatever, and she wants Farouk to let her out into a new body. Very confusing stuff. This is why I didn't review Legion last year, because, this is not the kind of thing that makes a lot of sense when you say it out loud. I don't even know if it makes any sense when I'm watching it, but it makes even less sense when you try to explain it. All right, so the boss lady, again, I don't remember her name. What is it, Karen? She tells David to save himself and to run away with Sid because, I don't know. I guess he's tempted by Farouk, and, he could meet his downfall if he works with Farouk. David talks to Cat Sid. This is always funny. I like seeing Sid acting like a cat. That's pretty funny. And she switches back, but I guess she likes that once in a while to turn into a cat. I don't know. Very bewitched like or something. I don't know. So he tells her that he saw her in the future, and he breaks it to her that the future Sid says that they have to help Farouk. And so present day Sid says that they should listen to future Sid because Sid usually knows what she's talking about. And Sid's mighty fine. Looking for the monk is the next episode. I don't know what exactly the monk has to do with anything. I probably won't next week either after having seen the episode. But again, you know, it's zany, it's fun. You had them singing, what's that Bing Crosby song? You know, You Could Be Swinging on a Star while they're destroying people and disintegrating them. You know, it's just fun, wacky stuff. You know, it's a visual thing. You know, you got to sort of put all kind of preconceptions of logic on hold, especially this season. Last season was like that too, but this season's not much better in terms of coherency. All right, so I'm going to give this episode of Legion, I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. I'm tempted to give it 3.5 stars out of 5, but it did keep my attention, which is something that I always give a credit to an episode if it doesn't lose me. And I did stay focused on this one and didn't sort of completely lose me. So I'm going to say 4 stars out of 5 for Legion. All right, let's go to, this is the episode that, even though Legends of Tomorrow had a great episode in the season finale, I'm going to call this one the episode of the week, my favorite episode of the week. I'm going to give it to Arrow, Green Arrow. This was a very good episode. I enjoyed this one, and I wish there were more episodes like this that I could say that I really enjoyed from Arrow. They're not always tip-top. In recent years, they've been mediocre, let's say. So the episode begins with Arrow, basically not even Green Arrow, Arrow / the Hood, wearing his original costume with Shadow's hood. And he's got the grease paint makeup on, and he's going after Diaz and the crooked cops. This is one of those things where they start in the middle of the story and they flash back 10 hours earlier, 20 hours earlier, whatever. I think that was the one thing I didn't like about the episode. I would have liked it better if we started straight, cold in the original beginning of the story. Because while it's nice to start with an action beat, this was the only action beat of the episode, and I think we needed, well, not the only, but I mean, this was the ultimate action scene, and we got it over with in the first 2 minutes of the episode. And so I think that it would have been better off had they put that action scene where it actually happened. But maybe they couldn't do that because the action scene doesn't actually happen. I think it stops before it does in the original opening. Anyways, Oliver needs help getting to Diaz, and Felicity gets Diggle back to headquarters, but they seem to still squabble like little kids, and they can't work together, and so they still split up. Again, this is the take they're doing with the team this year. They want to bring it just straight down to just Ollie and Felicity, and they even take Felicity away from him in this episode, which was something I liked. Seeing the hero on his own is more fun than just seeing the hero and Felicity. So it makes sense. Ollie ends up ruining William's project, and that puts him on the outs with the missus. And she orders him to leave. This is something that I don't know if this was a step too far. I mean, Oliver was acting, a little bit like a jerk. Not really defending him, but it's kind of strange where the guy is the mayor and this and I don't know. I don't know if that sat well with me that she just orders him out like that. And I don't know. That was just strange. One of the few things I thought was a little strange. But there you have it. So Ollie's going to lose Felicity and William. And he goes to Quentin. Very interesting to see how Quentin, who would have thought that they would have the most stable relationship on the show? At the beginning of the series, Quentin, basically wants to kill the Hood, and he hates Arrow. I mean, and he hates Oliver. You can tell I'm starting to get tired. We're at the 1 hour mark. But Quentin, he started the series wanting to kill the Hood and hating Oliver for what he did to Laurel and Sarah. Now they're like father and son, and Quentin's like the ultimate father on these shows. It's I mean, with all the different characters, he was like that with Thea. He's like that with Laurel. He's trying to be like that with Black Siren. He was like that with Sarah. You know, it's good to see this kind of role that he has, the actor, because he fills the role so well. You don't want to see him leave. Like I said, I always fear he's going to get killed off in any given season. But anyway, to get us back on track here, apparently they're going to try to impeach Oliver, and the sleazy lawyer or whatever he is ends up getting Oliver dosed with Vertigo. It's at a place called Vertigo, Vertigo. And he's starting to, this is the reason why he's starting to act out. He sees Prometheus back, which of course is a hallucination, because for a minute there I thought, this is kind of strange. He shot himself in the head point blank and a thing and everything, and I don't know, how's that working? But yeah, obviously it's a hallucination. He hallucinates that he kills Prometheus. I was trying to think of his name. What was his name? Chase? Agent Chase, I think. Yeah, that's Prometheus' name. He kind of imagines that he kills Chase. Chase ends up not dying, of course, because he's a hallucination. And he's taking him through difficult, scenes and stuff of his life. He sees Laurel when she was, I don't know, still young and innocent. He sees Laurel in her deathbed because Oliver failed to protect her and train her properly. He sees what's his name, Renee, in the hospital with the mask on still, which is very strange because it sounded like Renee's voice, but I guess they couldn't get the actor there because it clearly didn't seem like him. I mean, he had the mask on, so all you could tell is you could see like one eye, but nah, that wasn't him. So I don't know what's going on with that. The reason why he was written out. So Diaz, is there also as well in the hallucination. Felicity, meanwhile, gets a drive, like a thumb drive or something with evidence on it that will exonerate him from these charges. At the same time, though, they're going to question that he's the Green Arrow because where did he get all this information from? And he can't say Felicity. That would probably put her on the radar too. So Quentin sort of like excuses them from the room. Prometheus tells him to take on Richard Dragon, which of course he's still being called Diaz in this. I don't know when he's going to be called Dragon. Is it going to be one of those last minute things like the Mandarin where he takes off his shirt and says, "I'm the Mandarin"? I don't know. So Oliver decides to go after Diaz as the Hood in the classic outfit. And Felicity tries to stop him. Quentin tries to stop him first. And Quentin gets like decked for his troubles. Felicity, of course, doesn't fare as badly. But the exchange between the two of them should have been written a little bit better, because I'm not a diehard Felicity fan. I'm not a fan really in any ships in the CW verse, to be totally honest with you. So I'm not a huge fan of Felicity, but I could buy this. I would say, yeah, all right, Felicity's going to bring him out of it. Who else can if not Felicity? But it should have been written a little bit better. There was no real trigger words that I could see would bring him out of it. There were no trigger phrases. I mean, she said something like "we're glue" or something like that. "We're glue." I don't know. I can't remember. I only seen it once, but it doesn't seem to be like enough to be a trigger word or some kind of phrase that would bring him out of it. So I thought it could have been written better in that respect, but that it works. It works. So they escape before Dragon comes in and would mow him down. Once Oliver clears his head, he makes it clear that he wants to work alone. And Meanwhile, Ollie becomes impeached as the mayor. Quentin becomes the mayor, I guess, because he was appointed deputy mayor. Oliver makes his peace with William. Shouldn't have been too hard. All he did was just do one stupid thing. You know, he wasn't no child abuser. I was trying to remember. And Dragon's is meeting with Black Siren again to further their evil machinations. So again, I liked this episode a lot. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to give it episode of the week. I'm going to say 5 stars out of 5 for Arrow this week. 5 stars out of 5 for Arrow. And I hope they can keep up this pace of this consistency because, like I said, I don't think it's that bad of a thing to break it down just to Oliver. But, you know, I would like to see them make peace with the rest of the team before this is over. Again, we just got a brief glimpse of Black Canary and Curtis in this one. And I would like to see what happens, you know, having them mend fences and hopefully having a Black Canary that does something on the show and is not just marginalized as all the Black Canaries have been since the second season. All right, so, you know, make Black Canary a strong character. Make Black Canary the Black Canary of the comics. That's what they need to do, and they still haven't done it. They're just focusing on Dinah as a cop. They got to focus on her as Black Canary. All right, so 5 stars out of 5 for Arrow this week. And before I lose my voice, let us get moving on now to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, yes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just watched this one this afternoon, so it's a little bit more familiar to me because I couldn't see it last night because of the bombing of Syria. So I missed the end of it because it went on after the show. All right, so Fitzsimmons and Yo-Yo jump out over England, which, of course, everything goes downhill after the honeymoon. That's the honeymoon, the name of the episode, because they're honeymooners. Coulson and Talbot are still walking through the snow like Spock and McCoy in that episode there, looking for the library. Ruby beams herself down to track them, and boy, is she crazy. Is she cuckoo? I really enjoyed Duff Cameron in this episode, though. I think she really gave a great performance because I like the way she's playing all different aspects of the character. She's like a fragile little girl at some points. Then she's like a scheming, you know, megalomaniac. Then she's sort of like a, you know, prissy little princess type attitude with Daisy. It's a very broad range of you know, emotions. It's a very nuanced performance from her, and I really think she's done a great job with this. I mean, I was kind of disappointed when I heard she was going to be on the show because I said, well, who else would play Gwen Stacy better than Duff Cameron? And they're going to waste her in the MCU just playing some kind of you know, assassin or something. But no, this was a great performance, and you know, if Gwen Stacy never pans out in the MCU, well, Duff Cameron got a good role here. All right, so Daisy, May, and Deke try to find Coulson and Talbot. Daisy covers their escape by taking on Ruby. She gets the best of Ruby, and Deke gets shot by Hale in the exchange. Meanwhile, Mac is still incarcerated from the subterfuge there last episode, and Piper lets him out. Daisy ends up arguing with Deke, and Deke ends the argument by choking up blood. That's start choking up blood. You know, you pick a fine time to do these things. But I don't know. Deke doesn't really like the way that Daisy's handling herself as a leader, and I don't honestly blame him because she seems to be very rigid, I guess is the word, where she's not you know, she's inflexible, I guess, which is the same thing as rigid. But meanwhile, Mac and Piper have to take Deke into surgery because there's no one else there to do the surgery. And it's pretty gross. As someone that doesn't like seeing blood and surgeries, as far as those things go in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they never disappoint. They always do something like this. But, yeah, I could have done without it. During all this time, May confronts Phil about his, you know, he's kind of reckless now that he knows he's dying. He doesn't care that he's dying so much as he just wants to make whatever he has left for time count. uh, mission-wise. And May drops the L word and puts him in his place. That was pretty funny too. He's like speechless, and and she says, "I knew that was going to shut you up" or something. That was pretty funny. Um, yeah, well, let's talk about that for a minute because a lot of people were looking forward to these two getting together. One thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I always say is that they know how to do relationships well, where they don't trade on a lot of phony baloney soap opera stuff to get their relationships across. This thing was built up over time naturally. They didn't just act like, oh, let's put these two people together because we got to have these two people together. They kind of had it grow naturally into the show as you see these two getting sort of close together. Now, I would have preferred that Phil end up with the cello player, the cellist or whatever they say from Avengers. But she's over now. She got married to the guy, and now they're on Gifted. So that's not going to happen, I guess. But but yeah. So I'm willing to accept Daisy. I mean Daisy. Well, I'm willing to accept May and Coulson getting into a relationship because at this point, it does feel like they lay the groundwork for it. It doesn't feel like something they just threw together into it. They were friends for a long time. They didn't, play around with this thing because May was actually married in the beginning of the season. I mean, the beginning of the show. So it wasn't like they could have done anything too much then to begin with. Well, she was divorced, I think, technically. But anyway, that stuff was going on the first two seasons. So they did have time to lay the groundwork. All right, so Daisy debriefs Talbot and promises to contact his family. That becomes a problem. We'll talk about that later. Ruby gets grounded, and Von Strucker breaks in. And Ruby doesn't leave until she confronts Hale. And that's where we get that emotional scene where she's basically trying to do it all for her mama. She's doing it all to prove it to her mama that she can handle it. And because Hale wants Creel, the absorbing man, to be the vessel for the gravitonium or whatever. And Ruby apparently wants to have the power herself. But, obviously her mama doesn't want her to take chances and take on a power that she can't control. All right, so meanwhile, we've got Fitz and Yo-Yo and Simmons in the factory, and they're going to try to destroy, if not the entire factory, as much of the machinery and equipment as they can, because they're trying to circumvent the future from happening the way it played out in the loop when they tried several times in the past to stop the future from playing out the way it had. And so now they're trying to stop it by blowing up this important equipment. Yo-Yo drops the bomb that they have to let Phil die. That's what future Yo-Yo said, that the reason why all the plans get shot in trying to change the future is because they always try to save Coulson from death. And if they don't try to save Coulson from death, they'll be able to change history and not have the world blow up. This Coulson must die. For the sake of the world, this Coulson must die. So that's an interesting thing to pause on for a moment there. There must be a way around that. I mean, I thought maybe if Yo-Yo dies, that might be the way they break the loop because somebody has to die probably to have that loop be broken. But then again, it's not going to be Fitzsimmons. I certainly don't think so. And of course, they supposedly have to give birth to the daughter that's going to give birth to Deke. So I don't know. Also, they didn't really think too far ahead about Yo-Yo's arms, the robot arms, because she tries to use her powers, and the robot arms aren't made to take those kind of speeds and so forth. But such is what happens. So she tries to get away and take on the Russian robot dude there, and she takes him out, and that leads to the rest of the droids falling down useless because they were in a shootout, Fitz and Simmons, with these robots, and all seemed lost, but of course Yo-Yo saved the day. Deke is saved from certain death. And it's funny seeing Deke. He's even funnier high than Nate was high. Von Strucker and Ruby show up to force Fitzsimmons to repair the sabotaged machine. Now, this machine looks like the Captain Rogers transformation pod that he used in First Avenger when he took the super serum. So that's pretty good. They're bringing that back, and they want to repair that so that Ruby can use the machine the way Captain America did. Daisy, it ends with Daisy giving Talbot a chance to call his family on a, encrypted line or whatever. But when he calls his wife is apparently at gunpoint, and she tells him the code words that Winter Soldiers him, because he apparently was Winter Soldier and he was being tortured and stuff and this and that. And I thought something was up with that, because he didn't look like he was tortured that badly. I mean, this is a guy that just had like a bruise on his temple, and it didn't look like he was in any serious danger. So they must have done this to him, and yeah, they Winter Soldiered him. So yeah, this was a very good episode as well. I am gonna give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. Really good episode. I don't know. A case could be made for 5 stars. But yeah, the gross parts with him getting surgery, I didn't care for. So I'll say 4.5 stars out of 5 for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, we got one last order of business here. We've got Gotham. And this was a pretty good episode of Gotham. See, we didn't have any really bad episodes this week. Gotham, when it's bad, is horrible. But when it's good, it can actually be pretty good. And this was a lot of fun, this episode. This is, oh boy, what a kiss around this guy. We got the resolution to the Jerome saga, I guess, so to speak. And I, for one, am sad to see Jerome go, but at the same time, they really did a number on his face with the hacksaw and everything. He didn't look like the Joker, and there really wasn't anything they could do to, sort of get his face back into a normal Joker-looking face. In this case, what they did was pretty amazing. They managed to pull this off, but we'll get to that again in a moment. The show opens up with Mr. Freeze and the Mad Hatter kidnapping the mayor and his council or whatever. And Jerome, Oswald, and Firefly are there for this. And Jerome's, theatricality, so to speak, is too much for Oswald. And he goes to Gordon for help to try to, keep Jerome in check. Now, Jerome takes over a street concert, and he puts the mayor and that council there on display and threatens to blow them up one by one if he doesn't get Bruce Wayne and his brother Jeremiah as hostages. So Jim shows up and tries to deal with him, tries to take the place, but he won't take that deal. All right, meanwhile, a couple of subplots, we'll get to them now. Barbara uses her League of Assassins members there to take out some rival gangs. And the League kind of wants her to lead them and not just be hired muscle. They want her to do something proactive. So they take her to Ra's vault, and she uses her glowy hand to open it. And Tabitha is also, not sitting well with what's going on here. And Babs turns on her and has her cast out like a cat, just throw her out. And she takes a beating. And apparently, after she takes this beating, some of the male members of the League of Assassins, want to recruit Tabitha to be part of their league, because they want to overthrow this other league, because they don't believe Babs should be the heir and the new Ra's. Apparently, they're very, misogynistic and don't want a woman to be the ruler of the league. I don't know. I guess that's part of it. All right, meanwhile, it's Bruce's birthday, and Alfred gives him a proto-Batmobile. That's cool, isn't it? It's a bulletproof black car. And how old is he now? I guess he's old enough to drive, so that makes him probably 16, I guess. Catgirl, Selena, shows up for the private party, which was fun. I like seeing them together. They have a bit of a chemistry now more than they did before. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Selena's acting a little nicer. Maybe it's because Bruce is not acting so robotic. And they really feel like nice young people. That's the way I could explain it. All right, so Jim and Lucius Fox enlist Bruce's help to try to save the mayor and his council, whatever, they plan to get him and Jeremiah in there and would knock out the frequency of Jerome's dead man switch, because if he, of course, is assassinated, the dead man switch goes off and they'll all die. And I think it's also got a bomb that's going to blow up a city block or something. And so they're going to sniper him from the roofs. And of course, Jerome's too smart for that. He has the snipers taken out by his own men. And they go to Jeremiah, his brother, Jerome's brother, and tries to convince him to help. And it's basically Bruce that convinces Jeremiah to help, because he's not really on board with putting his life on the line with this. So he ends up agreeing, and they go on stage, and the snipers take out Jerome's men take out the snipers. So basically, Jerome has won. Meanwhile, Harv goes after the other loonies, and the Penguin gets knocked out and put aboard the Zeppelin with the Smilex gas that apparently Jerome wants to infect the whole neighborhood with. So Jerome tries to get his brother to kill him, but he fails because he's, kind of weak and simple. But eventually Jim shoots Jerome. Bruce escapes, and he takes out Firefly, and Jerome gets away. But Jerome corners Jerry and shoots him, and he plummets down the side of the building. You would think that that's the end of him, but he's holding on to a pipe. And Jim does try to save him, but he falls because apparently he didn't want to get saved, which is kind of strange, but it leads to what's coming in the rest of the episode. So Jerome says words to the effect that he's going to inspire a whole new age of madness. He's going to live on that way, and he's got plans to stick around, even though physically he'll be dead. So meanwhile, Penguin takes out the pilot and tries to turn the blimp to the river, and he's asking for help from Jim, and they kind of leave him up there just to annoy him, the Penguin, while he's in this blimp circling the harbor. So Jerome is laid out on the slab again. Sad to see him go, because he was a great character, but we got a new and improved Joker coming up. Oh yeah, and if I didn't mention, Tabitha, when she gets drugged by this other fraction of the Raza Ghul Legion of Assassins, and so she gets drugged and taken away. So I don't know what that's all about, but we'll find out. Okay, so the show ends with this image right here. This is what we see. Jerome left a gift for Jeremiah, and it was on the tag. It was from Bruce Wayne, but of course that was just that he would open it. And he opens it and gets poisoned with this Smilex gas here, and it transforms him into looking like the Joker, the best version of the Joker we've seen on this show at any rate. Apparently, I don't think his hair changes green. It doesn't look like it from this picture that I've got up here. But he gets the white hair. He gets the, arched eyebrows. He gets the fixed grin. He gets the, ruby lips. So apparently this is the Joker. And it's going to be sort of the nebbish, nerdish brother of Jerome, who everybody thought was going to be the actual Joker. And I'm all right with that, I guess. I mean, this is Gotham. What are you going to do? I mean, it's not like... I mean, I don't want to have an origin for the Joker, but seeing how this show is what it is, which is basically the origin of all Bruce's villains, I mean, come on, what are you going to do? You might as well put the Joker in on it. And what's his name? Cameron Mohegan? Is that his name? Cameron Moynihan? Something like that. Apologies to him, because he's very good, and I think he's a great addition to the show. I think he should be a regular. And, they're having a hard enough time trying to find things to do for Oswald and Edward to do this season. So putting another villain on, I think they're afraid the Joker will probably eat up all the screen time and, just take over the whole thing. But honestly, he's a big plus to the show. They really should keep him. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. It's a pretty strong rating for Gotham, but I thought it was, again, pretty entertaining and well thought out. Again, I don't know. I mean, we could have just kept Jerome and then maybe just gave him some plastic surgery so he looked like this, but it's a switch, it's a twist, it's a swerve. It's almost like Smallville, where they had Jimmy Olsen die, and then they were like, oh no, that wasn't the real Jimmy Olsen. That was his brother, Jimmy Olsen. This is the real Jimmy Olsen. They kind of did something like that here, which is, it's an all right swerve. As far as swerves go, it's an all right swerve. All right, so 4.5 stars out of 5 for Gotham this week. All right, and let's see, we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you very much for joining us once again for our 69th edition of Johnny Torch Live. And join us next week for the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live for This Week in Comic Book Television, where we're going to talk about all the episodes of superhero television in the week. Supergirl coming back on Monday. We're going to have new episodes of The Flash and Arrow. We've got the season finale of Black Lightning. We have Krypton and Gotham coming back, and of course, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we will get to all that. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you share this. Put it out there in the ether of the internet, somewhere on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever these other things are. I don't really know from any of them, but I know Twitter. I'm on Twitter, so check the link in the description below. You can check me out on Twitter. Check out my website. That link is also in the description below, where you will find out the latest update on my appearances on my Comic-Con circuit tour, as we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast. I'm going to be at the Peabody Institute Library on May 19th, and I'm going to be at the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire, June 10th for KidsCon, and, come on in and stop on by. Once again, this is your host, Johnny Torch, reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.